Alright, sup everyone. So today I'm going to show you a few methods that I use to this day to just kind of fatten up my basses and just kind of make shit sound better overall, that I kind of wish I had known earlier on in my little production journey. So yeah, I'm just going to compile a few things that I find and have found useful to just making your tracks much doper, right? So let's begin. So the main premise is really just going to be layering, right? So for an example here, it's probably not the best example, especially if you're listening on anything that does not have subs, right? So for example, what sub would you say sounds fatter, right? So I'll play both. Right, now here's the second one, right? Right, and it's obviously going to be number 2, right? If we're talking about just the overall just perceptive fatness of a sound, right? Because number 2 has a lot more high end, and you know, if you just think about you as a listener, you know, you think like you hear that high end, you know, it's kind of makes that connection to holy fuck, you know, that's a lot of sub, right? So just adding these things in can just, you know, make a, you know, almost just assumption that there's more there than there really is, right? Because it's the same sub on both of those, you know, it's the same volume down here, but this one is just layered with, you know, some high-end shit. So, right, so that's just kind of like the basic main idea of layering, right? You just want to just add different layers to a sound just to just kind of, you know, add more faces to it, if you will, right? So if any of that makes sense, I hope so, because, you know, it sounds like I was, you know, speaking knowledge, but, you know, sometimes I am not, so don't mistake that. But yeah, so then on to how to layer shit. So this one was a super easy example, but, you know, I'll give you some examples of like some more like complex sounds, right? So I just whipped up kind of just an example here. I didn't really have one in this track, honestly. So like, for example, here we're starting off with this bass here, right? It's kind of a pluck thing. Right, not very thick, and you know, obviously don't have a sub on there, so turn our sub layer on here, then still not very thick, right? So, you know, you don't want to be like me, right? I used to always think more sub equals more fatness, but it actually kind of comes down to the high end, which is kind of sadly a bit of a newer revelation to me. So hope definitely try to learn that early. Hopefully this educates someone before I did. So right, so yeah, not very fat, right? So what I like to do is I like to duplicate my layers, right? So I have this pluck here, obviously. I'm going to duplicate that down, and then you can do things to that pluck, like make it different, you know, just do shit to the pluck that makes it different, right? You know, put it up. More distortion, add a phaser, you know, all sorts of different shit, because it's just super easy to just get a good blend of elements that just work really well together when you just build it off of one another, right? So they're kind of coming from the same heritage, if you will, right? So this one came from, you know, the pluck I just showed you. So this one has kind of a different strain of high end, right? So then we combine this one to the mix, right? Adds more flavor, right? And, you know, adds more, you know, perceptual fatness, as I said before, right? So then we can take it even further, add another layer. So especially with plucks, you know, this one here is not the best I've done, but with plucks, you know, you want that transient and that snap, right? So what I did here is I just kind of obviously duplicated the one prior and then brought it down and just made the kind of envelope a tad bit sharper, right? So we got some extra attack coming in here. So now we can do like the before and after. Just adds a little bit more, you know, kind of oomph, to your sound, right? So, and that's what I didn't even realize till like even like a year ago, just the, you know, power layering gives you, because I just thought, you know, you load in a serum patch, that's your bass, right? You know, and you're done. But after layering, what layering does is it just allows you to kind of like separate different elements of the bass, right? As I just showed you, we have kind of our, you know, plucky kind of transient of the bass here. Then here we have our kind of stereo of the pluck, right? And then here's just kind of like the mono like pluck, right? So then I can, you know, attenuate each, you know, different character of the bass, character of the sound individually, but if it was all one patch, I couldn't really do that, right? And then this also allows you to crank up those fucking LUFSs and all sorts of stuff, because, you know, like when you have your sounds separated, it's not all trying to fight, right? You can kind of dial in your stuff a little bit better, right? So that's really the power layering in basses, but now we'll just kind of show you the final thing, right? The really cool shit. When you're layering your drums, it's pretty similar to like the techniques that I was talking about before with the basses, just because, you know, you got to be conscious of that low end, right? And maybe if I didn't touch on it before, you know, touch on it after. But yeah, if you're layering basses, make sure you're EQing those fuckers, right? You know, you'll hear if it sounds shitty. But yeah, back to the drums. But yeah, the same concepts really apply, right? So I can, you know, duplicate this kick here, and I'll fucking go in here with like an EQ, right? And then maybe like put like a drum bus on here. Just change the tonality of the kick. Maybe I want less transients, right? Just layer it on, and then like, right? So like before, after, right? More transients, right? And then I can, you know, go even crazier, right? I put like a phaser on or something. As you can hear here, here's like the before, then the after here, right? And obviously that's like a pretty shitty example, and like, you know, it doesn't really apply to that track, but hopefully it can just kind of show you how quickly and easily you can add different, you know, different characteristics to your sounds, and you have way more control over those characteristics with layering, and, you know, you can do it with fucking any sound, right? So hopefully, yeah, hopefully this video was somewhat useful, because, you know, I wish I saw this video that I'm making 2 years ago, before I just, you know, I used to just drive the fuck out of all my sounds, because I was like more like just trying to get it more fatter, right? But layering, it's the shit. And yeah, if I didn't explain it well enough, definitely look into it, because it is the shit, as I said. So if you enjoyed, rip a sub. Hell yeah.